Chairman Larson, Ranking Member Graves, members of the subcommittee, Paralyzed
So
Veterans.
Lee, someone, just want to be sure that we can hear you. Just pull the microphone, or someone can help out to pull the whole box forward.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yep. Okay. Chairman Larson, Ranking Member Graves, members of the subcommittee, Paralyzed Veterans of America, thanks you for the opportunity to testify regarding air travel experience of passengers with disabilities. It has been more than 30 years since Congress passed the Air Carrier Access Act. This law protects the civil rights of passengers with disabilities in air travel. Although it improved our experience, the process is far from seamless and at times is even unsafe. PVA members routinely report being physically harmed in boarding and deplaning aircraft, and their wheelchairs, particularly power wheelchairs, are often damaged while being stored. They also often encounter air carrier personnel and contractors who are not appropriately trained in assisting passengers with catastrophic disability. We believe most problems result from lack of training, inaccessible aircraft, and inadequate enforcement of the law. Commercial air travel is the only mode of public transportation in which a wheelchair or scooter user must surrender their assistive device in order to travel. Passengers must rely on air carrier personnel or contractors to properly store these devices and help them board and deplane the aircraft. For many wheelchair users, this is where the problems in safely accessing air travel truly begins. Air carriers use several different types of aisle chairs to help passengers with disabilities board and deplane the aircraft. An aisle chair is a small, narrow wheelchair that cannot be pushed by its passenger. Aisle chairs are often poorly designed and in disrepair. In some cases, the aisle chair can harm the passenger because it does not have proper padding, which can lead to skin abrasions, bruises, or sores. Furthermore, airline assistants are typically not properly trained in how to physically lift or transfer a person from a wheelchair to an aisle chair. They are also too often unfamiliar with the securement straps. On my most recent flight, I had a problem with the aisle chair and the people who came to assist me. The aisle chair that was used did not meet my needs. The footrest was too small and my feet kept falling off the aisle chair as I was being brought into and out of the plane. Also, the seat straps were not sufficient to keep me in a secure seated position. As a result, my hip and lower backside hit every armrest all the way back to my assigned seat. At my seat, the personnel tried to lift me up over the fixed armrest into my seat, but they were not strong enough and ended up dropping me on the armrest as I slid into the seat. Passengers with limited mobility must also worry about the storage of their assistive devices. Damage to wheelchairs can be a trip-altering event, as well as pose significant health concerns for passengers who depend on it for mobility. Customized wheelchairs are not easily replaced if damaged. Although my wheelchair is typically returned to me without significant damage, this is not always the case for some of our PVA members, particularly those who use power wheelchairs. Damage to assistive devices is typically a result of improper loading and securement within the cargo area of the aircraft. Damage ranges from minor tears to fabric upholstery to a complete electrical power breakdown, rendering the chair useless to operators. Repair often takes time, leaving the passenger stranded until it can be fixed. Disability access is almost non-existent on most commercial aircraft. The aisle width of the plane is typically smaller than that of the individual being transported on the aisle chair. This means the passengers are bumped and scraped from row to row to get to their seat, wherever that might be on the aircraft. The lack of accessibility also extends to the lavatories on a vast majority of single-aisle aircraft. In January 2020, GAO report on the accessibility of U.S. aircraft lavatories, people who have limited mobilities found that although accessible lavatories are available, carriers do not often choose to acquire them. When passengers with disabilities encounter disability discrimination, they are left with few remedies. The administrative remedies available through Department of Transportation are quite limited. In response to a complaint I filed following my most recent trip, I received 10,000 bonus miles from the carrier. Systematic change is what's needed, not more bonus miles. The disability-related provisions included in the study on lavatory access in the FAA Reauthorization Act represents an important step forward in efforts to improve air travel experience of passengers with disabilities. However, these provisions alone will not address the fundamental access problems to safe air travel for people with disabilities. Thus, we strongly support the bipartisan Air Carrier Access Amendments Act, H.R. 1549, which was introduced in March 2019 by Representative Jim Langevin. This legislation would greatly improve aircraft accessibility and strengthen enforcement of the Air Carrier Access Act. As population ages and needs of greater accessibility of the aircraft will only continue to grow. Better training of airline personnel and their contractors, increased aircraft accessibility, and improved enforcement options will lead to safer travel experiences for PVA members and all passengers with disabilities. PVA thanks you for the opportunity to express our views today. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Page. I want to now turn to Mr. Joe Leader